Through experimentation with a new repertoire of ingredients, we've had spectacular success transforming, if not elevating, some vintage cake recipes. Today, I'll make 3 old-fashioned favorites that are just as delicious as they are wholesome. Oat Roulade with berry cream, chocolate buckwheat torte, Zucchini-Almond cake. All today on Martha Bakes. When you think of cake, oats may not be the first ingredient that you pull out of the pantry, but Don Lewis is joining us today to change that. Don, welcome to our show.
Well, thank you.
Tell us about your mill.
Well, I started this milling operation years ago to support my bakery and most importantly for consumer access to regionally grown grains of stature.
What do you grow? What kind of oats?
The variety is streaker oats.
I've heard of that.
Naked oats.
Yeah, naked oats.
Yes.
So take us through. These are 3 of your different oats?
Yes.
Take us through these and explain what they are.
So this is the oat groats. It's the whole oat. This is a live product. You can sprout this if you'd like to.
Is that streaker?
Yes.
Oh, it is.
And you can use it in many ways, as a pilaf or something like that.
If you cook it, does it soften?
It does.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, I would soak it first.
Right, okay. And then now I can see it has that little line in it which a rolled oat has.
Yes.
So is that the same thing? If you rolled these, they would turn out to this?
Correct.
Ah.
Yes.
How interesting.
Although rolled oats are usually steamed first and cooked and then rolled.
Oh, and then rolled,
So
okay.
then, for me, the clock starts ticking when it comes to the freshness clock. So
Right.
that's why we produce this product here is Scottish-style oats. And these, instead of rolling on a roller mill, these are cracked on stones, on the same mill stones.
So just cracked?
Yes, and we do that fresh.
This looks like the cereal that I make.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you cook this up with a little salt and lots of water, it'll make that beautiful, crunchy oatmeal.
Yes, and if you adjust your hydration, you can have more texture or less. Usually it's a 1-to-2 ratio for cereal.
And this is your flour?
And that's our flour.
Ah.
And this is you'll see it's a real fluffy.
It is very fluffy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a great addition to cake recipes. And
Why?
It adds a nice moisture and flavor.
Are oats gluten-free?
Generally, oats are gluten-free. It depends on the processor and the farmers, if they're growing other grains and the control.
It might get mixed in?
Yeah.
Oh, I see, yeah. But
naturally, they are gluten-free.
And what's the difference between your Scottish and Irish?
Irish oats are steel-cut oats, generally steel-cut oats. And they're cut on a machine with blades, and it's usually a high-heat process. Whereas when we do this on stones, it's very brief.
Just friction.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of friction, and it keeps it much cooler.
So the heat might disturb some of the nutrients.
It does.
I see. So how many farmers are you working with to source your grains now?
Over a dozen farmers. We have quite a network in several locations, and the diversity in locations helps in the food security issue. If you have bad weather in one area, then...
So how did opening your local mill enrich the community?
Well, when I did that, I saw a direct effect on access. And for me, the quality of food was changed at that time. And it had been actually in our region, the Northeast here, it had been 80 years since grains for human consumption were grown.
Oh, it was mostly for cattle, for cows?
Animal feed.
Yeah. So now we have lots of growers growing grains and making a living off of farming.
Oh, yeah.
The family farm is once again getting to be more popular and more profitable.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
It's wonderful.
It's nice to keep it also in the family. What's your best advice when it comes to buying flours? What should we look for?
The most important thing is regionality. First, if you get as close as you are to your producer, the better, because it helps ensure the freshness of the products. And freshness is key.
And how should we keep them once we buy them?
It's nice to keep them refrigerated, keep them cool. Once grains are cracked, the clock starts ticking. And so if you can keep them...
How long will those last like that?
I like a 3-month use by date on any of the grains that we crack and mill.
Remember that, everybody, 3 months. Keep them in the refrigerator, even the freezer's okay.
You could, yes.
I keep a lot of my grains in the freezer because I really want to open a bag that smells fresh and ready to use.
And that helps extend the life of it too.
It does. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your You're milling, and I can't wait to bake with your beautiful fluffy flour.
Well, thanks.
Can't wait to see what the cakes taste like. Leaving the oats unsifted is the key to this roulade's pleasingly rustic texture. One of the easiest flours to mill at home is oat flour. You can grind it right up from whole grain rolled oats that you can simply pulse in a food processor until finely ground. This will not be the same as fresh milled oats from the grist mill, but they're tasty. They have a mild flavor that works into a variety of baked goods like pancakes, muffins, and the old-fashioned jelly roll that I'm going to show you how to make today. A pinch of salt into 1 cup of the oats, and just grind these up until they're very fine. Just make sure that you keep the little blade that's in here very sharp. So 1/4 cup of this flour should be sprinkled lightly over the parchment paper that has been buttered. First butter the pan, then put in a piece of parchment paper and butter the whole thing. This is going to be a little bit of a crust on your roulade. And this is the typical jelly roll pan, 11 by 17. This will adhere to the butter. And shake it around a little bit just to get over the entire surface. There, done. So now to make the cake itself, we have to separate 4 eggs, large. Put the yolks in this bowl and the whites in this bowl. Break them up first and then mix with 1/4 cup of sugar. It's going to take about 3 minutes to get this into a nice meringue. And this type of cake, by the way, is leavened only by the air beaten into both the whites and then into the yolks. Let that get nice and frothy and about tripled in volume. Oh, these look beautiful. Stiff peaks, glossy. That's exactly what we are looking for. So now remove this bowl, and you can now beat the egg yolks. And once the egg yolks are broken up, add 1/4 cup of sugar slowly and beat the yolks until they're nice and light and fluffy. Now this is ready to incorporate right into your egg whites, along with your ground oats and ultimately 4 tablespoons of cooled melted butter. So pour this into your egg whites and try, if you have it, the largest of your rubber scrapers. So fold these. It looks so beautiful. It looks like a lemon custard. And now sprinkle your ground oats right over your fluffy egg whites and egg yolks. And you're mixing, but you're trying not to deflate. And then your butter. So what did Grandma do without electric mixers and without food processors? So here, pour your batter into your pan. You're going to spread it evenly in one nice layer and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You'll rotate the pan halfway through the baking time. The whole time is about 15 minutes. So now this is what the cake looks like, warmed right out of the oven. Sprinkled generously with powdered sugar. Run the sugar through a sieve, as I'm doing, so that it's nice and fine. And I always love the flavor of the confectioner's sugar on a roll like this. And now we are going to turn this out onto a towel. You can hold the towel taut, flip it over. You have to do that fast because you want to get that cake out of the pan. There. Oh, thank goodness it came out. So now take it off your parchment. It's very thin cake. And powder again with sugar. If the sugar is getting stuck in the sieve, just use your fingertips, as I'm doing, to push it through. And to make a nice plump cake, roll from the short side. Fold the edge of the towel over and just roll the cake. You'll unroll it when it's cool enough so that you can put the cream inside. So I've whipped 1 cup of heavy cream, and now just about 1/4 cup of berry jam. Fold it in, and this is your filling. A little streaky is good. So now unroll your cake. This is cooled. And I remember with my mother, we all loved roulades. We always made one right after we made berry jams. So the cream gets spread all over the cake. So beautiful. And then roll it up again. But this time, do not roll the towel into your cake, but use the towel as your guide. Transfer this to a serving platter, dust with some more confectioner's sugar, and refrigerate for at least 30 minutes or up to 3 hours. Then it will slice perfectly. Serve this roulade with lots of berries. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. A torte refers to a rich cake made with little or no flour. But thanks to the use of gluten-free buckwheat flour and ground almonds, this version has a lighter texture and a wonderful earthy flavor. This is a chocolate buckwheat torte. In this double boiler, well, fabricated double boiler, I have melted 1 stick of unsalted butter with 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. So this is ready to go. You can turn the heat off. In your food processor, grind up 1/4 cup of blanched almonds, which have been lightly toasted. Now this makes a lot of noise, so get it over with. A little bit of texture is okay, but no big lumps. I think that's good enough. Oh, it's a beautiful color and oh, so fragrant. And into your ground nuts, add 1/3 cup of buckwheat flour. And if you can find it freshly milled at your local grist mill, even better. So 1/3 cup, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Coarse kosher salt, I like the best for baking. And I just want you to know that buckwheat has nothing to do with wheat. That's why this is a gluten-free cake. It's actually a seed from a plant that's related to rhubarb and is therefore classified as a pseudo-grain. This gluten-free flour has a dark grayish-brown color and a distinctively earthy flavor. It's blended with wheat flour or other starches to add another flavor dimension to baked goods. And that's what we're doing here. We're mixing this with the almonds and the chocolate to make a really fantastic torte. So this is all combined. So now I can put my 1/3 cup of light brown sugar into the mixer, fitted with a wire whisk, by the way. We can break our eggs one at a time and add it to the sugar. I'm doing this just to check the eggs, for no other reason. But I know my eggs are generally perfect. Get this well beaten. It'll lighten a little bit, and it takes about 6 minutes for it to get to the appropriate fluffiness. And your pan, this is a springform pan. This should be well buttered, fitted with a piece of parchment in the bottom, and then buttered again. I think this looks very nice. So lift that up, you can see it's a thick, thick ribbon. So now you can add your chocolate and your flour mixture. Put a spoon or 2 of the chocolate and another spoon. And now fold in your flour. And that's it. Pour this right into your prepared pan. Your oven should be preheated to 350 degrees. Rotate the cake halfway through baking. It'll take about 25 minutes. So the cake is baked for 25 minutes. Cool it in the pan for 10 minutes, then release the sides and remove the cake to a rack. Let it cool completely before you put it on your serving platter. And you can put a ganache on top if you like. You can dust the whole thing with powdered sugar. You can dust part of it. I'm putting a little 6-inch cake round here, and I'm just going to dust the edges, because you always see things dusted completely, and let's try something different. This is acting just as a little bit of a guide for the sugar. Now very carefully lift this, pretty, and then put this on your serving platter. Hope that no wind blows, because powdered sugar will blow. And if you happen to have a stencil of your initial, you could put your initial, a nice big M in the center. Wouldn't that be pretty? So to serve, I would suggest cutting it into nice sized wedges, not too big and not too small. Use one of these offset serrated knives, which are very good. And serve with a scoop of cinnamon ice cream. Everyone's going to savor this beautiful torte. Enjoy. Gluten-free zucchini-almond cake owes its structure to almond flour, while potato starch, which is what I'm sifting right here, lightens the texture, and grated zucchini keeps it all moist. For the finishing touch, a home-style, quick-to-prepare cream cheese frosting, ideal for swirling and swooping. So the process is a little bit more involved than just dump and stir. I'm sifting with my whisk 3/4 cup of potato starch, and we need 3 cups of almond flour. And measure that as you would regular flour. Almond flour is also known as almond meal, and all nut flours are known also as meals, and they're finely ground from untoasted nuts, and they can be used to enrich the flavor of baked goods and boost the protein content too, and also avoid the gluten from wheat. And sift that together with the potato starch, and add to these dry ingredients, which are quite moist, by the way, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2½ teaspoons of baking powder. Replacing some of the flour with potato starch, which is a European technique, tightens the grain and holds the moisture supplied by the eggs and the sugar. Just make sure this is all mixed together. And there it is. Now the eggs. We have 6 beautiful farm fresh eggs, large. Whisk these a little bit to break up the yolks. And these are in the bowl of a stand mixer. And now, to get more volume, put this over a pot of simmering water. We're warming the eggs, which will help get them very foamy, very full and fluffy. You have to stir constantly. You do not want to cook the eggs. This is another way to scramble eggs, did you know it? But we don't want to do that. We just want to warm. Warming relaxes the egg proteins, enabling the eggs to whip up higher and more quickly. And this process also melts the sugar, which I can add right now, 1 cup of light brown sugar. We want to melt that so that there are no crystals of sugar in our beautiful batter. And this takes about 3 minutes. Now, insert your whisk and beat until the mixture is pale, thick, and cool to the touch. This is going to take 7-8 minutes. And you can gradually increase the speed to high. Now, in the meantime, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. We're using 8-inch cake pans that are buttered and then lined with a parchment round in the bottom and then buttered again. So these are 2. We're making a 2-layer cake. And while that's beating, you can grate your zucchini. You're going to need 2 cups of zucchini grated and put into a cotton towel would be great, or a double piece of cheesecloth would also work. And as the zucchini sits, it becomes more and more watery or moist, and you'll see how much water will come out of the zucchini. You can just twist the towel zucchinis, yellow squash, they're all very watery. So all that water comes out. So now your zucchini is dry enough to incorporate into your batter. So our mixture is getting there. And while the eggs are beating, add 2 tablespoons of highest quality vanilla. I think they're nice, light, and fluffy, and I'm going to do my typical folding by machine, which is just like that. First the dry, and then the butter, and then the zucchini. And now the butter. This is 1 stick, 8 tablespoons, melted and cooled. And you can sprinkle the zucchini in the top. And that is our batter. And then divide half and half. And for even layers that are perfectly even, you can use a scale, or you can just guesstimate. Transfer these to the 350-degree preheated oven, and halfway through baking, you can rotate the cakes and bake them until they're golden brown and a tester comes out with a little bit of crumb attached. Transfer to a wire rack, let cool completely. So our cakes are done and cooling. Look how pretty they are. I think I'll invert one so you can see how great it is. And it's a lovely cake. And so we're going to make the delicious cream cheese frosting to fill the center of the cake, this layer, and then the top layer. 2 sticks of butter, 24 ounces of cream cheese. That's 3 8-ounce packages of high-quality cream cheese. And notice I have fitted the mixer with a flat beater, which you need for this weight of butter and cream cheese, and it'll get a nice smooth texture. And confectioner's sugar, 1 cup. And there's no reason to sift this because this mixer will beat it nice and smooth. 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And when I say highest quality, I mean pure vanilla extract, which is becoming more and more expensive, by the way, because the vanilla orchid from which the beans come are being over-farmed, over-picked. I think that's enough. So just spread a nice thick layer of cream cheese on top of the first layer. And now you can put the next layer on top. If you like, you could actually, with this much frosting, frost the inside, the top, and the sides, or you can just do the inside and the top and serve it as a naked cake. But I think it looks beautiful frosted all over. And just think you'll have a really good recipe for that zucchini in your garden. I hope I've inspired you to rethink your cake recipes, and hopefully you'll come up with some new favorites just like I have. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Martha Bakes.
We're cooking Scottish oats today. Toast the Scottish oats first. Mix it up in here. This is 1 to 2 oats to water ratio. Cook for about 20 minutes. From there, it's to the table. We like to eat this 2 ways. One is the sweet way, butter, little maple syrup, fruit, and the other savory with a little bit of cheese, paprika, olive oil on there. It's always a nice thing too. Delicious food with very simple ingredients.